Hi guys, sorry for the mishap. Somehow our previous live ended thanks to Evan. But I mean, for those who sort of like missed out, we were solving a question, and I guess Karishma
Mhm.
already had the answer in the first
Mhm.
minute. But I'm gonna, yeah, I'm sure.
This is
I
too much
still will
pressure, Selvi. This is not fair.
I know. I'm
Mhm.
so sorry. But
Mhm.
I'm just gonna quickly wait for like the rest of the guys to
Yeah.
join.
Mhm.
Also, I think, yeah, wait, let me check. Is this even showing up everywhere?
Mhm. Yeah,
Okay,
okay,
okay.
let me check the YouTube link as well.
Mhm. Yep, it's showing up. It's showing up with a different
Great,
thumbnail for
great.
some
Then I'll
reason.
not log in. Great.
Okay, hi guys. Okay, so sorry once again. Yeah, I think I have no idea which question we were even solving. Uh,
Um, James Baldwin, I think some James
J-
Baldwin, right? A professor at the
wait,
university. I think if you search for that, then you'll get it.
Professor. Wait, did Shovik join? Oh yeah, Shovik's here.
What's up?
What's up?
Hey, long time no see. Sorry.
I mean, is it really a YouTube live stream if something doesn't go wrong? So,
That's
um,
true.
all right. So,
Yeah.
Maria and Charles, I saw Charles just joining the lobby. Do they know
Mhm.
the link, Selby?
I think Abhijit is sending that out to
Gotcha, gotcha.
everybody.
Cool. All right. While we are figuring that, let me share my screen again. All
I
right.
think I should update quickly, like social media. That like the link has changed to the live stream. My God.
Yeah,
Wait,
that's,
wait.
yeah. I think we need to do some things on the forum as well, but I'm sure there are people who will take care of it.
Okay, I have to like pose for this. This is how I do my social media, guys. I post for pictures and then like put it on our story. The link. Wait, guys, please
Hello,
join
hi
Oh,
me.
Charles.
Hello,
Charles,
hello.
you
Hey, welcome
joined
back, Maria.
and
Hi
our
guys.
stream detonated.
What was that, Shivik?
You joined and immediately our stream detonated.
I don't think that's a coincidence. I think Evan was like, "Oh no, this guy, he's gonna
Not a
tell."
surprise, is it?
No,
I don't think
and
there's
especially
not
for any.
causality.
Well, I don't know. I pick on Evan a lot. I think everyone knows I love the guy, but the real whole reason I go to GMAT Club team meetings is just to make fun of Evan. So I think he did it on purpose. It's like, oh no, that guy. Ah,
Now that he's gone, it's not fair, Charles.
All right, Charles, before we jump into this James Baldwin question, who are you
what?
Good question.
You mean in real life
in
or?
real life? Yeah.
Yeah. My name's Charles. I yeah. So I teach GMAT stuff for a living. I live in Colorado. I'm married with two little kids who are 3 and 5 years old. So I haven't slept a whole lot in the last 3 years. It's my son's birthday today. Happy birthday, Kiki. His name's Kian. He calls himself
Happy
Kiki.
birthday.
His
Oh.
nickname. Yeah, and love traveling. Done a lot of crazy stuff. If we wanted to drive
Love
people to
food.
live stream and scare people away from GMAT Club, we could do a countdown of the 5 dumbest, craziest things I've done in my life. And even I think Shovik of this group probably knows me best, and you probably don't even know the half of it. But yeah, I ate food from 160 countries without leaving New York City once. So I like eating.
Charles, if we ever play like, two truths and a lie, Charles would be the best person in that game. He has done some really crazy things, which I'm going to try to talk about before you leave. But I want to get on this question. Selby,
Mhm.
what's your answer?
My answer is E.
Karishma, do you agree?
Good job, Selvi.
All right,
Thank
Selby, why
you.
is A not correct?
Why is A not correct? Oh,
Yeah.
I think because the ending while he was living there could also refer to the professor. So I was like, that's sort of wrong somewhere. So that's why I just
That
don't
is
look it up.
interesting. So for me, why I thought A wasn't correct was because there's this really annoying thing that it's very easy to forget, but um, possessive pronouns like his and her and stuff like that can go back to a non-possessive nouns. Like for example, if I say that Selby is doing a really good job in her live stream today, which is objectively true. But like Selby is doing a good job in her live stream, that's okay because even though her is like a possessive pronoun, it can still go back and like be okay by referring to Selby. But if the reverse is not true for some reason, like if I have a possessive noun but a non-possessive pronoun, GMAT starts to hate it. Like for example, if I say something like Selby's live stream is so good today because she cut a cake live for everybody. For some reason, that's not okay because I have she, but I don't have Selby. I have Selby's live stream. So that's why I got rid of A, but I could be wrong. Charles, am I totally wrong?
Yeah, that's one of those funny sensitive topics, and I think Krishna knows probably exactly what I'm going to say here. That there back in the day, that was kind of our collective understanding. So maybe I don't know,
I'm old.
eight,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, and I've said this publicly too. I mean, there was a live stream from 6 or 7 years ago where I was like, yeah, we can't find a question. Like we find a bunch of questions where that's the best explanation, official questions for why something's being eliminated is this whole business of, there's a subject pronoun or a non-possessive pronoun she that's referring back to a possessive, and GMAT seems to not like that. And then of course they started releasing questions where that didn't hold. So we're like, oops, I said something in a live stream that has 200,000 views that is kind of wrong. And kind of the and Krishna, feel free to jump in on this. I think kind of what we do in test prep, all of us, is we basically look at all the official stuff and go, okay, based on this, what do we think the GMAT thinks is right and wrong? And 10 years ago, there weren't that many official questions out in public. So there were things we looked at and said, well, this seems to be a rule. So, many of us were teaching that rule, and then they release new stuff and we go, oops. So they're less rigid than that. I think it can cause confusion. I don't think it's an ideal construction to have the he referring back to James Baldwin's.
Right.
But I wouldn't say absolutely wrong. I'd say maybe not ideal. Krishna, is that all fair? Just in general?
Yeah, absolutely. So, whenever someone asks me this question, I go back to that example of Bonadia, goddess Bonadia's, right? That the official sentence where the pronoun, it refers to the possessive in an official sentence. So certainly, we have learned over the years and we've realized that there are a lot of things which are acceptable as such in GMAT, and you really can't follow rules. You have to look at the context and look at the best possible option over here, where there are very few hard rules that this is how it's going to be, and if it's not like this, then you have to then it is wrong. Certainly not. So yeah, we have learned that over the last few years. Certainly, Charles.
All right. So Charles, what's wrong with A? Unambiguously, what's wrong with A?
Unambiguously? I mean, I would look at this and just go, can we do better? I wouldn't cross it out on first blush.
Right.
So if I'm just looking at A by itself, not looking at B through E, I go,
yeah. So same here. Even, I wouldn't be happy with research on James Baldwin's books because I know it can be written better on, research the books, for example. So, but then I really can't see a whole lot that is wrong in A. Again, as Charles said, can we do better? Because it's indirect, right? Though it's clear, look, it says James Baldwin's books that Baldwin wrote. So we know who wrote the books and in France while he was living there. So as such, there's no ambiguity per se. But
but like James Baldwin's books that Baldwin wrote, that's such that's a horrible way to say
exactly. That's the whole point. So exactly.
But we can't cross it out based on that. I think we all have the same reaction where it's like, well, that's not very good.
Yeah.
but you don't want to be in that's our opinion, right? And we might all happen to share it looking at it. But if you're taking the test, there are a lot of correct answers where your personal reaction to the correct answer might be, oh, what a terrible sentence, I would never write that. So you can't cross it out just based on even though like if we have a better alternative that cleans up those things that make us go
Right.
and we do here, as it turns out. But just on first blush, in a vacuum, it's like, I don't like it, it's wordy, wow, that's a really clunky way to say that. We can argue about the he being maybe a problem, maybe not.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to react to it too much until I know we got something better.
What about B? Why is B bad?
Research about the books. Well, that's just not okay.
It almost feels like this is meant to trick people with different prepositions, right? We've got on, about, and into, and it's almost like it's meant to make people freak out about like, okay, maybe it's one of these three prepositions and I just need to know almost idiomatically which one of the prepositions it is. I mean, that's sort of my take on it. It's kind of like a red herring maybe for a stressed out test taker. But I don't even know what I'm just like trying to think like what would I think if I were.
So there used to be a time, Maria, when like this was at the cusp of when I was starting to study for the GMAT, where there was like a pretty significant drive, like, hey, idiomatic, like preposition things, they should almost never be in the GMAT as like the way to separate a right or a wrong answer, which is where like, like we kind of got into like, I think there was somebody from the GMAT that said that we want to, remove the bias of like non-native speakers who are not always super familiar with whether it's research on or research about or research into. So that was one of the reason I wouldn't toss that out on the research about. I also don't know if research about is not correct.
At the end of the day, Souvik, we're looking at language. So GMAT can filter out as much of the idioms as possible, but then they'll still be there, right? It can't be math, isn't it? It is language. So then that subjectivity will be there. And for that matter, if you expect to use business English later on, then you would need to know some of these idioms, even though we don't really believe in learning up those idioms and everything.
Sure.
But for example, in case you are an avid reader, that itself should make a difference. That itself will tell you, what works, what doesn't work, right?
Yeah.
And
so
I'll add that this is part of why the GMAT's doing away with sentence correction is, what they said at all the test prep conferences to roll out the GMAT Focus Edition was, hey, we felt that geometry and sentence correction often tested kind of lower level constructs. Okay, well, how well do you know language? I would say that isn't valuable, but they're trying to test verbal reasoning. And of course, there's layers of that in sentence correction. But we have also this thing here where it's like, well, do you know enough about the idiom here? And it's not all about reasoning. And that's part of the rationale for doing away with it, is that they think they can get at richer, more meaningful things that are going to correlate more strongly to what you actually do in business school. So a lot of the things, especially on this particular question, which is arguably a little more idiom heavy than most that have been released in the last decade or 15 years or so. Yeah, there's also a reason why GMAT has kind of looked at this, and business schools have looked at it and gone, I think we can do better with test takers' time than sentence correction.
Right. Besides, I feel in this question, E is a better option, compared with B, even if you don't talk about, because look, it separates out the fact that he wrote the books and that he was living in France at that time. It's not connected, right? He wrote the books while he was living in France. It just separates out the two things, whereas B kind of clubs them together about the books James Baldwin wrote in France. So, was he like in France and he was writing about France? And, E in that sense is a little clearer as well. At least I really like E more because of that also.
So I would say B is better than E because B is more concise. Like, why should... the books James Baldwin wrote in France doesn't necessarily tell me that the books were about the French.
But maybe the professor was in France. He took a sabbatical to go to research some books the books James Baldwin wrote in France. So in France could apply to the professor has taken a sabbatical. So let's say it's an author who never set foot in France.
Yeah. But like that's true for E2. Like I'm just playing the jerk here. Like the professor took a sabbatical.
No, because the professor didn't write the books that he's researching. The books James Baldwin wrote while he lived in France.
But he could be the professor too, though, right?
I guess the books, if James Baldwin wrote those books when the professor lived in France, that would be the interpretation of it, which is a little bit.
Yeah.
It's not as
that is pretty odd.
I agree with Krishma. I think the last one makes it very much more clear that it was the books that James Baldwin wrote when he was in France and not.
Yeah. And it's incidental that he was living in France at that time. That's the whole point over here that I'm trying to make. That, these were the books, and while he was living in France, it's incidental that he was living in France at that time. It's not really related to the books he wrote. So that just makes more sense to me rather than B.
I'm just so impressed at Selby. She did all of this in her head in like less than a minute and came up with the right answer. So that was super impressive.
I'm a genius, guys.
I'm gonna move to
tired today.
But you're a genius, Selby.
We just opened GMAT Club Tests for about 100 hours. Selby, can you tell me a little bit more about this? Why are we doing this? And how can
So, I mean, I did mention this in our first live stream, but I'll mention it here again. So we were doing a giveaway, guys. And for those who want to know about the giveaway, all you have to do is just go to our YouTube community page and you'll see an image of the whole giveaway, like what it's about, how you can participate. And we are going to be disclosing the winners in 3 days. But meanwhile, we are giving out GMAT Club Tests for free for literally 100 hours. So that's like give and take like 3 to 4 days. So go ahead, take the tests. It's completely free. I mean, and yeah, enjoy them.
All right. Now, since Charles is here and Karishma, you're here too, I'm going to ask some questions about GMAT Focus. How do we feel about that? I will take this test in November. I think is when it opens. I'm excited. It's been like 2 years since I took the last GMAT test. So, but what's your initial knee-jerk reaction to the test? I hate it. So I'm going to be, as transparent. But I'm sure you guys don't hate it as much. But Karishma, what are your thoughts?
So it's a new test is what I would say. It's not really just an update of a previous test. The strategy used for this test will be quite different because we'll have 3 sections and equal weightage is given to each section, and suddenly IR becomes a whole lot more important. And so let's say the kind of effort that you're putting in, for example, verbal, is the kind of effort you need to put in data insights as well now, right? So of course a lot of extra focus has gone to quant now because the data sufficiency questions have been moved to a 3rd section. And in any way, integrated reasoning, also your basic quant concepts are extremely important. So your arithmetic, your ratios, percentages, those things do become important because in case we understand them very well, then we will be able to do better. So I think it's going to be an absolutely new kind of test. It'll need new strategies. Of course, sentence correction is gone. And frankly, I'm not very happy about that because it was really easy to get a good score in sentence correction by putting in enough effort. You could really figure out what GMAT is testing in each question. Now it has become it's become important to be an avid reader. I would say that because RC has now equal weightage and a lot of people suffer in RC. So I do see that I feel that verbal is going to get a little tougher. Time is going to become an issue. Normally for CR questions take about 2.5 minutes, and for RC also you take about 2.5 minutes. So now there is no place from where you can steal time like we could do in sentence correction questions. And again, integrated reasoning questions, I think they take time because people take time to wrap their head around and just those few extra seconds. So I see it as slightly tougher for sure. I don't see it as a big win for us. But I think it's exciting. It's a new format. It's exciting, and I'm all ready to start.
I totally agree. From a test taker perspective, those are pretty much the reasons why. So Jeff is here from Target.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, Jeff. Good to see you.
is it like a thing that the moment you start talking about the GMAT and GMAT focus, you just magically appear out of nowhere?
Yep,
Is that what
everywhere. Yep, you could be in Kansas. I'll show up on your doorstep. It doesn't matter.
Right. Jeff, introduce yourself a little bit. I know you have been on the live streams in the past, but who are you?
Well, I am the COO and head of instruction at Target Test Prep. So I've been around since the very beginning. So I helped Scott develop our course initially. As a lot of people know, we started off as a GMAT quant course, right? I've done a lot of tutoring in that time too. So I tutor today as well on the quant side of the GMAT, and do a lot. We have helped launch other products like our live instruction, our live classes. So I help manage a lot of the tutors here. So I just do an awful lot of different things at Target Test Prep. And as you said, I've been on a lot of the live streams before. So I certainly help with some of our marketing and our webinars and all that stuff. So many hats, you could say.
All right. You joined at like the right time. We were just asking Charles and Karishma, and I would love Maria's point of view here as well at the end on what it means for applicants. But I was just asking about GMAT focus and changes. I personally don't like them. And Karishma, the changes that you were saying, one of the things that, I mean, of course, sentence correction takes less time, just for the most part, right? I think at an average, a minute and a half, while CRRC obviously takes a lot longer. So it definitely squeezes the test in a little bit. So that's the first reason I hate it. The second reason is I also think sentence correction, just like being on the forums for as many years as I've been, is also easier to improve. Like the ramp from I know nothing about SC to like I know reasonably well some rules. It's just a lot lower than being able to do better in RC. Second reason why I hate it. The third reason, I think this might be speculative. I was talking to a few people who are trying to take a bunch of GMAT focused tests and like are deriving new stuff about the test. The traditional GMAT, verbal and quant questions are completely independent, and the scoring is completely independent, which may not be true anymore. I don't really know, but that's what I'm hearing. So those are the third reason I hate it. So, Charles, why don't you hate the GMAT?
Yeah, so I'll defend a lot of things GMAT's doing here, and I had a lot of conversations with some of their psychometricians in the last few months about some of this stuff, because I was like, what are you guys smoking over there? What are you doing? So I'll get to the part that I hate, that I think is a real problem for test takers. There's one thing that I'm really worried about. I'll get to that. A lot of the rest of it, I think, is less of a big deal than it seems in a way. So shorter test, that's nice. They're going to do a nicer job with data dashboards for after your test. Like right. It's going to be better than the ESR, and you don't have to pay for it. Very cool. More flexibility in score report. There's a lot of those bells and whistles that I think are very test taker friendly, very well thought out. I think it's nice you can change 3 answers. They did that specifically and, in all honesty, surprisingly thoughtfully to help minimize test anxiety. I think it's the first time I've seen a major standardized test really think deeply about test anxiety in their design. Props to them for that. Reading comp critical reasoning, it was a third-ish of your composite score before. It still is. Yeah. I love teaching sentence correction. Yeah. And I think almost everybody's been in, kind of teaching verbal for a long time feels the same way. I agree completely with you, Shovik, that it's a break. It's a break for your brain when you're doing verbal. And yes, the verbal section is going to be shorter, but it's also going to feel relentless, even though it's shorter. Yeah. So a lot of those changes are, we can argue, right? Does it really emphasize reading comp critical reasoning more? No, I think it feels different in ways that we could debate might be unpleasant for a test taker. So we can debate all that stuff. And I think different test takers might have different feelings about, ooh, this is nice. Verbal section shorter, no more sentence correction. Okay, good. Oh no, that's bad. That hurts me because of my personal taste. Fair enough. I think all that is arguable depending on your taste. Here's the thing though. So for all the things that I think are friendly, all the things that depend on your taste, do you love geometry? Then you're sad. Do you love sentence correction? Then you're sad. Do you love weird graphs and charts that are maybe deliberately not written very well? You love those? Then you're going to like data insights. That's exactly the design. They're doing it on purpose. So I think all that is a question of taste.
Yeah.
Here's my big problem. we've had this whole thing, and Krishma, I think we were on a panel once talking about this. Maria might have been there too, talking about how schools have historically used these tests in different ways. And there's this whole business of round numbers just mean something to us culturally. And 700 has always been this really key threshold that people benchmark to. The rankings have taken that in a different direction. We benchmark to even higher numbers now. When we see schools that accept the GRE, and nearly all of them do now, we've kind of seen them over the last 10, 11 years benchmarking to 160 on both sections because that's a nice round number. We've heard admissions committee people say, yeah, I think we're doing that subconsciously. It's just natural, right? We don't understand the difference between a 163 and a 161 or a 730 and a 710. But 700's round. If you can beat that, good.
Right.
Yeah, 160 round on the GRE if you can beat that.
Yeah.
So here's my big beef, and I said this to GMAC's chief psychometrician, and I'm not the only one to say it. Plenty of people in the test prep world have. Now you've made that 700 really tough to get. That's the equivalent of, I forget what the number is now, 735, 745 on the old test, or sorry, 705 would be equivalent to something like a 740, 750. I haven't checked the exact numbers lately.
Yeah, around 760, in fact. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And that's not cool because for this to work well for applicants, you have to trust that, especially over the next 5 years, but even beyond that, as admissions committees are looking at these scores, they stop benchmarking to 700 and they look at the percentiles consistently and fairly. That's what GMAC is telling schools to do. Will they, for all the information coming at admissions committee people, it is asking a whole lot. This is not a shot at admissions committees, but you've been seeing all these numbers above 700 for years and years and years. And all of a sudden, that equivalent is you're in the mid to high 600s. And are you going to be able to look at that and really compare fairly? That's my beef. That's where I'm really concerned about what's going to happen.
Right.
So they'll actually have to deduct almost 50, 60 points from our conventional GMAT to go to GMAT Focus. I mean, 730 plus or 735 plus on GMAT Focus is 100 percentile. So that's really scary. I mean, what do you mean 100 percentile? You know, that nobody's going to get that, is it?
That's I hadn't looked into that. And also, by the way, if any of like GMAC people are watching this live stream, that would be odd. But if you are, all of this criticism, at least from me, is coming from a place of love. I love the GMAT test. I've taken it 8 times.
Super excited. Yeah.
I have never seen a GMAT question that I thought was really poorly designed. Well, maybe one out of like thousands and thousands of tests. So, and I've been in GMAT sessions where they've talked about, statistical psychometry that goes in the background. Big fan of every single question. So I may react emotionally to changes to a test that I've come to love so much. Jeff, I'm curious, what are your thoughts about the GMAT Focus?
Well, I've talked to a lot of students. One of the things that kind of bothered me about the change in the quant section was them getting rid of the pure math data sufficiency questions. So to me, as a teacher, those are my favorite questions to teach. All of the great nuggets from number properties. There's so many cool things they can do with inequalities that people just don't learn in their high school math, adding inequalities, subtracting them, how you combine equations with inequalities, things that, and even C-traps to that end. I mean, they can still have C-traps with word problems because they do, but they also have a lot of C-traps in pure math data sufficiency questions. So I don't know, in a way, I thought it was kind of odd that they did that. And I guess the proof will be in the pudding when we see the test. And to be quite honest, I'm not fully convinced that what they're saying this test is going to be what this test is in the next 8 to 10 months. I'm guessing that GMAT could still use a little bit of wiggle room. And obviously, they need this to be a success. So if things aren't panning out the way they need to, I wouldn't be surprised if they made adjustments on the fly as this test gets launched, which is crazy. But I mean, what are you going to do? Because I've even been seeing today. So as we know, the new shorter GRE launched, I think today, and there's already feedback online, and people are actually really enjoying it. And as we know, part of this new GMAT focus clearly has something to do with a lot of the people moving over to the GRE. So if word gets out that, hey, this new shorter GRE is awesome, then GMAC's going to have to make sure that this focus has the same type of feedback. So I think it's TBD on the finality of this test. At least that's my opinion.
My hope is that GMAC puts, and schools for that matter, remember, GMAC is a member institution. It's a member association of business schools.
Right.
My hope is that community of business schools in partnership with GMAC really does some thoughtful work on saying, hey, let's really be clear. If you're gonna take all of these different tests, you can throw EA into that mix too. Let's be really thoughtful about how we compare them. Because over the last 10, 12 years, as the GRE has gained currency in MBA applications, I don't think that they've been compared thoughtfully. And one of the things that we end up saying to applicants all the time is, well, hey, depending on your profile, I mean, it's complicated, but for somebody that can't get a really competitive GMAT score for what their profile is and where they're applying, it's often a lot easier to get a GRE score that will check the box, hit that 320, move on. And it's a lot easier to get for a lot of these folks. And that's not what the schools are necessarily going after. It's kind of created somewhat of a loophole. What I wish GMAC would do, and I've told a lot of people at GMAC this, is really put some thought into helping schools understand, hey, if you're going to compare these two tests, number one, they're very different tests, and they're diverging even more now with all the changes happening. GRE scores, the test is shorter. Your scores are less stable. So you're going to have more variability from day to day, even if you're doing the exact same thing. That's the price of lopping questions off, unless you're going to compensate for it in some way. So there's a lot that I think is problematic about the GRE, the way they've made the changes. And I think GMAC needs to say, well, hey, with this new score scale, a 600 on GMAT Focus, or 605, I suppose, is probably roughly equivalent to a pair of 160s. If you're going to benchmark like that, that's the right benchmark. And I'm worried that what we're going to see for our GMAT applicants with GMAT Focus is, boy, it's going to be hard to get a 705. And that's still kind of in people's heads, subconsciously or consciously, is that's sort of the magic number. And the equivalent number on the GRE is way easier to get. And that's not fair. That's not healthy for anybody.
Yeah, I mean, I think GMAC and ETS really needs to come together and have some sort of understanding of all of this. But I don't see that happening anytime soon, just based on obviously the marketing that you see in these websites. Because that would be a better experience for all applicants across the board. And you're right, you can throw the EA into the mix, which is such an interesting test now because EA still includes sentence correction, which the Focus has gotten rid of. But one thing I've noticed about the EA, which is so interesting, which I didn't quite realize until I had worked with a few students who took it, is that the scoring on the EA just seems, even though it still covers the majority of the topics, the scoring on the EA seems to be incredibly lenient compared to what I was seeing from the GMAT, just based on meeting with a couple students whose base level of just algebra knowledge was so low, and then them coming back and being like, well, this was my score, I got a 150, and I was like completely blown away at their ability to do that, knowing what I knew about that student. So that's pretty interesting.
If I can make one last wisecrack about GMAT Focus, I have to say, I think they've engineered it really well. I have a huge beef with it, but they're really thoughtful with it in ways that GRE making these changes, I'm sorry to say it, but they just removed questions. GMAT has put a ton of effort into making sure that if the goal of the test is to measure certain knowledge, skills, and abilities, which is what a psychometrician might tell you, measure certain constructs, whatever, they're being really careful and really thoughtful about it. Now, how that affects test takers and applicants, again, I have a big problem with the score scale, but they're really trying to be really, really careful with it. And I respect that, because that hasn't always been the case with these tests. So they're really trying, and I think doing a lot of smart things, for the record.
Yeah, I think knowing integrated reasoning is extremely important. Anyway, once they go to business school, they have to understand all those graphs and everything. Stats is extremely important. So it makes sense for them to put in the effort before they go to business school. So certainly I agree. I mean, there is a lot of value in that. True.
So, Maria, how do you tackle questions when people say that, hey, I want to go to this business school? I used to have one option, take the GMAT, and that's pretty much it. Now I have GMAT, I have the GRE, I have GMAT Focus, I have GRE Lite, and I also have MCATs for some schools. I have some perspective here that I recently learned. I'll bring that in a bit, but I'm curious how you answer some of those questions.
Wait, what's your perspective that you've recently learned? Why don't
Well,
dangle
so
that in
I
front of
was
me and then take it away? Like, why don't
so,
you go first?
so I've reached an age where my peers from Michigan are now going into schools and recruiting, right? And they're making all these decisions on like who gets a return offer and who doesn't. And I have heard from more than 5 of them, not just from Ross, but from multiple schools, all within consulting. So this might be a consulting caveat that they're seeing stat sig performance drop in their interns, and to a point where they are having to go to schools and have a conversation about them. So it's not a one-off. And one of their hypotheses is it's because schools kind of waived all of the test requirements. Like, during COVID, many schools got people in with like zero tests. And that's also, I think, it's a cultural movement as well in general, like outside of just business schools, to waive test requirements. And I think some recruiters and some recruiting companies are sort of asking questions around like, well, I'm seeing this, it seems this is the reason. Let's talk on evaluating that. And I was pretty surprised. I mean, whenever the consulting company says anything, my immediate reaction is like, I don't buy it. But this was triaged across multiple schools, multiple consulting companies. So it was concerning.
That is fascinating insight.
Yeah.
First of all, the fact that you have 5 or more friends is fascinating.
Right?
Exactly. Well, I'm just kidding. Oh, I'm just joking. But no, like the fact that there is because at the end of the day, one of the biggest stakeholders in the MBA ecosystem is in fact these big recruiters. And if the recruiters and the rumors for a while, it used to be that you had to have at least a 700 to get an interview, I believe, at the McKinseys and the Deloittes and the whatever. And then they started moving away from that. But I wonder now if they might start to reinstitute that. So even if somebody did get in under a test optional type of application, maybe now the consulting companies themselves may say, well, sorry, but for us, you still need to demonstrate that level of proficiency. That is fascinating to see, because I think the schools themselves have said, to the extent that they use the GMAT or the GRE to predict first-year grades or academic performance, I think the official line from the schools has been like, well, we haven't seen a huge difference, right? We've been letting people in, and as long as they can prove in their waiver application essay, like, oh, I took 5 semesters of calculus in college, and so you don't need to worry about me. The schools have said, well, we haven't seen a huge drop in those grades and academics, but maybe there is in fact that's really fascinating. I'm glad I let you go first.
But like, business school academics, like I don't know, it's pretty easy. It's not difficult. Like I think it feels a lot more difficult than it is. Like,
it's not intellectually challenging, but when it's the amount of time that it takes. It's it's not advanced, but it's the quantity that you're doing, and then you're also networking to try to find a job, and you're also trying to kiss up to your professors to hope that one of them will. Yeah, so you got a lot going on.
Juggling all that is the tough part. True.
Yeah.
So then, Maria, like, do you often have an answer, or is your answer it depends on when people say like, hey, GMAT focus or not, or GRE or GMAT? Like, I think we're making it more difficult to be able to answer that question.
So a couple of things. So first of all, my sort of official viewpoint has always been, if you can do well on the GMAT, go for that, because you're going to maximize your scholarship opportunities, because the GMAT is the number that everyone knows, right? If I say, okay, what's Wharton or Stanford's average GMAT, most of us instinctively know, like, oh, it's somewhere in the 730s. But if I say, well, what's Stanford's average GRE? 1.6, like there, we don't know, because we've had the GMAT around for decades. And so we've all been trained to sort of psychologically say, like, okay, that's like, you guys were already making that point, like above a 700 is good, above a 730 is like, so, but with the GRE, it's because of not only it hasn't been as big of a presence in the admissions space. When I was applying, the GRE was maybe 5% of test takers, then it went to like 12, and now it's, I think, at about 30% at some schools. So they are just really eating GMAT's lunch on this. And I think part of the problem, and Charles was alluding to this earlier, I have this, I obviously I think a lot of people have this theory that there's a psychology around the actual scoring, where the difference between a 162 and a 163 on a percentile basis is actually a pretty big percentile. But you think to yourself, well, 162, 163, that's not a big deal. That's not a big difference. Versus a 720 versus a 740. I've got a couple of blog posts over at my website where I sort of dissect some of this. And so I think it's been problematic. So what I've often told people is, look, all else being equal, if you can do well on the GMAT, do well on that, because that's the vanity metric that the schools are going for. So you're more likely to get a merit-based scholarship if your GMAT score is significantly above the average, because they're going to use you to essentially, this might be a crass way of putting it, but they're going to buy you in order to allow them to let in that nonprofit person who's building, schools in Uganda who has a 680, because if they still want to maintain their average of a 720, 730, so they will entice the person with a higher GMAT to come in with a nice scholarship in order to allow them to let in other people.
Right.
So that's always been my position. Now, however, if as some of you have been saying before, if the GMAT just isn't your thing, but you are otherwise a strong candidate, then I absolutely think the GRE is a bit of a hack to get in. I have an entire huge blog post on my site where I analyze as to why it's easier to get accepted with a mediocre-ish GRE score than it is to get accepted with a mediocre-ish GMAT score. And so anyway, so that's always been, but I have cautioned people, you're more likely to get in, but you're less likely to get a scholarship, because you'll be getting in, but you're not adding to that sort of vanity metric. So what's so interesting to me about this, sort of looking at it, I am not an instructor or someone involved in the pedagogy of it, but I think, the launching of the GMAT focus was done directly because to try to staunch the bloodshed, the market share that GMAT is bleeding to GRE. And they got so many things about it right. Like, I think the actual test itself feels like a better thing. Like, I think the integrated reasoning stuff from the beginning should have been a bigger part of this test. I'm delighted to see it, because, like Karishma said, that's more like real life. So, but then it's like they just shoot themselves in the foot with the marketing. First of all, they shot themselves in the foot with the announcement and the timing, and they're like, well, we're launching a new test, but we're not going to tell you anything about it, and it's going to be ready in 6 months. Like, the PR timeline just created so much uncertainty and so much panic. And it was like, oh my gosh, that was a self-inflicted wound. That was an own goal, like in soccer or football. Like you shot the ball and you shot it into your own goal. It's like you created this level of uncertainty and panic that wasn't necessary. Like, the rollout was so bad. And I didn't actually know what you guys were, the stuff about earlier about, like, a 700 is now going to be a very high percentile. I didn't even know that. And that is just from a marketing perspective, what a dumb idea. Because now the average person out there in the world is not going to know that, like, well, now there's a new GMAT and it's harder than the old GMAT. So first of all, from a vanity metric perspective, since we know that the schools love the GMAT from a vanity metric perspective, if anything, the GMAT should have gone the opposite way with scoring and made it easier to get a 780, 790, even if that would have been a 730 before. And then also, like, even on a more day-to-day basic level, Shovik, if someone is from a consulting firm and they come to recruit and they took the GMAT 20 years ago, and I see someone with their resume and it says 690 on the GMAT, I'm going to be like, well, what a dummy. Like, but not knowing, because the average person is not going to know. Like, well, and then it's what I'm going to be in the job interview saying, like, well, actually that 690 is very impressive. Back in your day, that would have been a 74. That's too complicated. So it's like GMAT. There's such. I think they're nice people, but they do so much right. And then when it comes to the actual thinking of the marketing aspect of it, or how can we really get people to love this, it's like, I don't know. So I'm not sure. I mean, look, I will say this: if your school is going to accept the GMAT focus, I think the good news is this year, is like the wild card year, where, because nobody really knows what to expect, if you take it and you get something that on a percentile basis sort of checks out, I think schools are just going to kind of go like, I mean, I guess we'll take them. I don't know. because no one in the market is going to know what to do about this score. So as long as I'm comfortable that you're performing well enough that you're not going to be an embarrassment in my class and you're going to be able to keep up with all the academics and stuff, I'll let you in. So I think from that perspective, it's kind of like I guess like you might want to take it because I think it's because it's not so rigidly known. That unknown can actually work to your advantage if you don't get a super strong score, but
I mean, I think the GMAT kind of failed to realize that there are multiple customers, some of whom have the liberty to reverse look up the percentiles, like admission people, maybe. But rankings are based on scores. Consulting companies and banking rely on them, who do not know that this score is different.
And they wouldn't know for a long time. I mean, the admission committee will know within a year, but then those people will not know for quite a few years. So there is going to be a problem.
We have a new guest. I'm going to add Fernando.
Fernando.
I'm sure everybody knows who Fernando is.
Hello.
Fernando, we had one of your classmates, not really classmates, but Evan was here a while ago. He said nice things about you. But for people who don't know you, Fernando.
I hope so. Otherwise, when I see him on the hallways this Monday, no, I'm just kidding.
So, Fernando, introduce yourself for us a little bit.
Sure. So thank you all for the opportunity to be here. Always a pleasure. So my name is Fernando. I'm originally from Brazil. Now a second year here at UVA Darden MBA and a lawyer turned consultant. So was a lawyer back in Brazil, worked for the Brazilian government. And now I did my summer at a MBB consulting firm, and I'm coming back there for full time.
Which office are you going to go back to?
So I'm going back to the Charlotte office. So it's actually Carolinas, the region.
Yeah. No, that is awesome, man. I'm sure everybody knows you from the Darden campus video that you made, which was awesome. I love to watch that video.
Thank you.
So I feel like it's been a while that we haven't done a question. So Fernando, I'm going to put you through a GMAT question. But,
oh my God.
No.
And my internet's not good, I think. Maybe I would just...
I'm going to pretend that that's my problem too.
Right.
And gang, I'm gonna bow out here because I've been hacking up the storm back here. So.
I have a class as well, guys. I think I need to go too.
No worries at all. The questions are generally just for Selby, but anyone else that we get is just a bonus. Thank you so much for spending time with us. Thanks, Karishma.
Bye. Thank you.
Great to see all of you. Karishma, great to see you.
Bye,
Bye everybody.
Bye, Maria. Bye, Selby. Okay, sorry. Bye,
congratulations, GMAT Club.
Yeah.
Fernando, you're not going anywhere. So, this is the question. So, what we're going to do is I'm going to start the timer. We're going to try to come back in about like a minute and a half.
What is this? Is this an actual thing? It's just going up?
Yeah.
I don't know if I should just say any letter because it would be a guess anyway. Or
Sure.
This is going to be one of those where, like, first of all, if you raise it to a power raised to a power is you multiply them together, right?
A power, yes, that is right. But you don't multiply all of them. Like, you can't. I'm not going to say anything. You do you.
This is just going to be one where you have to figure out what that there's got to be a pattern, and then you figure out based on the pattern what that final digit is, and then you assume that the 26214 is right.
Maria, that was pretty much exactly what I was going to do.
I know, but now I can't actually. Now I have to do it. I don't think I can do it, but this is where I'm. My son will ask me the question on his homework, and I'll be like, "Here's how you should set it up." As a parent, that's my job. I help him set it up, but then I don't have to solve it, and so maybe that should be my role here today. Oh.
Okay.
30 more seconds.
No, that's not fair. Wait, I zoned out in the first minute.
That's not fair. Is that like a default response? Fine, I'll give you 45 more seconds.
Okay. I hate math. Okay.
All right, Fernando, do you have an answer?
Fernando, you're on mute.
Wait. Oh, I guess it's C.
You get it.
I think-
All right, cool. Selby,
I
what is
think
your
it's
answer?
D.
I mean, don't read the comments.
I'm not. I swear to God, I'm not reading the comments. I did the thing and I wrote in my notebook, and it's
I'm even
D.
sweating here because we work out so much. That was a surprise, right, Sabi? I mean, even sweating, so anxious that I got.
Well, let's talk through it, right?
So I would say if I had to guess, just guess, I would guess C, because only A and C end with 4. That's like the GMAT is tricking me into picking one of them. And then I know 4 cube is 64, and 64 square is already a 4-digit number. So it can't be A. It has to be bigger than A. So if I had to guess, like I had 30 seconds left, I would guess C and move on. But if we did walk through it, I guess. So 3 to the power of 4, that's probably going to be, I don't know, ending with a 1, right? Like 3 to the power of 4 is like 81, right? So that's that ends with a 1. So if that's an 81, then 2 raised to 81, right? So if I do 2 raised to 81, that's probably going to end with a 2 again. And then 1 raised to anything will end in a 1, right? And then 2 raised to...
Oh, so I'm sorry. It's 4 to the like it's 2. It's 3 to the power of 4, and then 2 to the power of that, and then I see.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So you have to like kind of walk backwards, right? So anything raised to the power of 1 will be just a 1, right? So that's
But why are we going backwards?
It was a little bit
can't we
hard
do
to
the same
see
thing?
from the.
Yeah.
It was a little bit hard based on how it's formatted.
One doubt that I had in my head was whether we should do like you were doing, Civic. So 3 to the power of 4 to the power of 3 to the power of 4, or just 4 to all of those other ones. Like,
oh yeah, no, totally. I mean, I think you can go either way. I don't think it really matters. But
Either way. Oh, sorry.
it seemed like an easier number to me. But I think you can reach to 1 with any way, right? Like 4 cube ends with a 4, then that square will end with 6, right? And then so it kind of needs to end with a 6, maybe.
We know it's definitely going to end with a 4 or a 6, and so then the question is, a 4 raised to an odd power, I think, ends in 4, and 4 raised to an even power ends in 6.
Right.
So then the question is, whatever this thing is above the 4, floating above it, is it an odd or an even number? I think
3 to the power of anything will be an odd number.
But see, I misunderstood the formatting.
No,
because
but
I thought it was 4 to the third, and then that to that squared, and then that raised to the first, and then that squared, and then that third to the fourth, as opposed to 2 to the third to the fourth. I didn't work backwards that way.
Yeah, but so, well, Buñuel is saying the rule of working with stacked exponents is to begin with the highest exponent and work our way down, which is what I was trying to do. I think I had it like in my head, but I'm gonna like question this. He's also posting. By the way, Maria, I don't know if you know who this person is.
I've heard he's like the Banksy of GMAT Club.
Yes, he is. That's a good way to describe it. I still don't know who he is, which is, really, really bothersome. So 1 to the
Wait.
power blah, blah, blah equals 1. So we can ignore it completely, which means we'll be left with 4 to the power of 3 to the power of 2, which does make sense. And 4 to the power of 3 is like a 64 kind of a thing, which squared would have 6 at the end. So
I'm right.
but it's not
I'm not right.
But it's not D, it's C. How?
I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry for getting it right. That was expected.
Why I'm so. This is why, like, whenever I solve questions and like whenever I'm really irritated, I bully the questions. I genuinely start talking a lot of crap about the questions, as if the question is a person. So I'd say a lot of things right now. Because why is it not D?
So it's not D because 4 to the power of 3 to the power of 2, right? That's what we are left with, right?
Mhm.
And 3 to the power of 2 is 9. So it's essentially 4 to the power of 9. So which is an odd number. So it will end on a 4.
Gosh. Okay.
Does that make sense? But I really enjoyed Maria's reasoning. So
No, but I misunderstood what it was. I didn't realize that it was 3 to the 4th. Like I wasn't thinking about it anyway.
Yeah, but I think your reasoning was totally right though. Like 3 to the power of 4, if I raise 4 to any odd power, it's gonna end up with a 4, and any even power, it's gonna end up with a 6. And any exponent of 3 will always be odd, right? Like three raised to any powers will always be odd. So ultimately, it's 4 raised to an odd power. So it will have to end with a 4. Which I think was like absolutely the fine reasoning. And then it becomes like, well, can it be A or C? This is what I initially was like my guess. Like both of these ends with a 4. This is the GMAT trying to make me hate my life. That I came to the conclusion that it ends with a 4. Great. Now I have 2 options. So I would pick C because A looks very small.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to move to other questions.
Oh
Buñuel's on the chat. Buñuel, can you throw us some other questions? That will be nice, especially ones that Selby has not seen. But Fernando, tell us how life is. You are one of the few people who are crazy enough to go to business school with your wife, fiance? I forget.
Exactly, my wife and camera woman at the Darden video, as you all saw it.
Yes.
So credits to her for recording that.
Yeah.
And it's been great. Everyone says second year, best year, because it's supposed to be much chiller. It hasn't gotten me yet.
Yeah.
I mean, with all the classes going on, and at the same time, like club responsibilities, coaching the first years, mentoring the first years.
Yeah.
So it hasn't hit me yet, but let's see the last few quarters. Anyway, it's been great.
Do you enjoy the adulation of like all of these first year folks? Like, oh, Fernando, you went to MBB. Share what you know and what we don't. Do you?
I don't know. I don't know if you guys saw in Instagram, in one of those consulting meme pages, there was like a picture of someone in a circle, and like if you were really, I will send it to you. I won't be able to explain, but it was a picture like a second year in the center and the first years around it, exactly like you said.
Yes.
Like, hey, please give me your advice. How did you do it and everything? And I mean, it's a good feeling. It's a good feeling. Mostly when they get the advice, not only they ask for it, but they incorporate it. They start acting this way, because having been through it, we know, of course, we are all very, very far away from knowing everything, very far away, but we know some things that work and some things that don't.
Yeah.
So it's great when they really hear and incorporate that to their routine.
Yeah, and like there is just the rumor mill, right? Like, and consulting, consulting is like does so much stuff that makes life harder. There's all these invite-only dinners and like invite-only events, and you automatically think you are in if you get an invite to those did bother me. I'm not gonna lie.
And people are starting now to get nervous about those because here recruiting season just kicked off at Darden this Monday,
Yeah,
but people are already like starting to get nervous because naturally, so 2 weeks from now we have fall break.
Yeah.
Then there is here at Darden the consulting case camp, and right when you come back from it for Q2, people
Yeah.
already start getting those like invites for closed list events for or not getting them. And many times they just mean nothing. Like if you get it, you can be out, and if you don't get it, you can be in. But like I said, many people get overthink it and end up like building up so much anxiety
Yeah.
because it's natural, I think.
Yeah, and I think it's totally natural, and also I don't think just as someone who has been through second year of business school before you, for you it should be pretty chill and pretty easy.
Yeah,
For
you already
me,
have a job, dude. Like, come
yeah,
on.
exactly. Like
Make
hated
yourself a
people like you.
caipirinha and sit back and relax.
I totally hated people like you. I went to internship in a tech company, in a fairly big tech company, but as a principal, they don't give out offers. You have to like interview again to multiple companies. So while all my consulting friends had like completely done second year all set, I'm just gonna go to like Florence and eat, bistecca and wine and go to Mykonos. I was busting my butt preparing for interviews. So
I mean, I can't say that I feel the pain, but I imagine how it is, even because, like you said, some friends that I have that interned at tech, so big tech companies, other like big retail companies, they haven't yet heard back. So they feel this pressure of, okay, since they haven't heard back, it can be a yes, it can be a no. So they have to, while they don't hear back, like recruit again, do the re-recruiting and like prepare again for interviews and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's even something that I always that my wife always tells me that I should just chill out. But I don't know. You know, when you just get nervous when you don't have stuff to do. So I end up getting so much that at the end of the day, I say, oh my God, was it? I won't say that, like the words that I wanted to say, but why did I do it? But I keep doing it. Like I said, the club stuff. So just now here at Darden, it's something. I think Darden is the first school to have that. I'm one of the co-founders and president of AGE, which is Alliance for Gender Equity. So it's pretty new. So like building up a club from scratch. And like I said, all the part of coaching the first years, we have a class called second year coach. But apart from that, many people come to you and ask for help. So it can mount up to being a lot. And I even saw that there is a question here on the chat. Are placement packages at Darden truly what they report in the employment report? They are. I mean, Darden has been, I'm biased, of course, but it's a school that has been like the main feeder for consulting across all schools. So I know that, for example, we have lots of companies, but something I know, for example, is that for McKinsey, Darden was the biggest feeder across the US this year. And McKinsey was the company that hired the most at Darden.
Yeah.
So they are true. Like what?
Well, your dean used to be a partner at Darden, right?
Yeah,
so the dean of the school used to be a partner at Darden, and I think also the academic rigor. I think your previous Evan, who was on before, he was complaining about how hard the classes are, but I do think that maybe certain employers are willing to pay a premium for
I don't know.
the schools where
Kellogg sends so many people to consulting. I haven't seen a single Kellogg person going to class. But
I mean, when I hear that, I'm like, oh my God. Here we have to
but it's a marathon, not a sprint, Fernando. It's a marathon, right? So
Thank you,
it's one thing to get, it's one thing to get the job in consulting. It's another thing to last.
Exactly.
Yes. Fernando, happy to, I mean, I'm sure you have like a ton of people, but I now, because I'm like 3 or 4 years out of business school, have a ton of like consulting friends who are either principals or managers or who have like bye-bye to that life. Happy to connect to any of them.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
Also, guys, I wanted to bring up something because I'm super hungry and I got this especially. No, I got this specially for 100 subs. I thought, let me show it to you guys. Wait. I have to like remove my virtual background for this, but can you guys see? Happy 100K GMAT Club.
That is pretty cool. Is that a Black Forest?
Love it.
Or tiramisu?
No, this is a tiramisu.
Oh,
yes.
Very nice.
Where are you based now, Selby?
I'm in Delhi.
Oh, do you speak Hindi?
No, I'm not from. हाँ जी, मैं हिंदी में बात कर सकती हूँ. अगर आप चाहती हो कि मैं हिंदी में बात करूँ इस पूरे सेशन, बता दीजिए, मैं बात करूँगी. For those of y'all who understood that.
You have to properly teach me because I do know some phrases like मेरा नाम Fernando है, और मैं दर्द में पड़ता हूँ, मेरे शर्ट में हूँ. आज tan है. So I know some of these good things that I learned by myself. But most of my friends from India, I have some of my best friends are from India. All that they taught me are words that I just can't say here, like curse words. I know like 10, 20. So, apart from that, Dhanyavad, Namaste, I had all to learn by myself. Bohat Dhanyavad. I mean, but I'm on the way.
Bohat Dhanyavad. That's so cute.
You know a lot, Fernando. Like,
yeah,
that's a lot.
I have been trying, but it's hard when people don't support you, when all they want to teach you are curse words.
I know Chale Chalo, the song from Lagan, because when I was based in India, the movie Lagan came out, and I went to go see it in the theaters, and then I bought the soundtrack.
Oh, wow.
And
who's going to eat the cake?
Me. I'm waiting.
I don't have any cake. Neither does. Okay, fine. You can eat it for us. But by the way, a lot of our YouTube growth has been because of you. So thanks so much for driving so much of YouTube and so much of social media. Maria, you have been in more YouTube videos than any of us here, at least. You have been in a lot.
I've been in a lot of them, but I don't think that's necessarily true. But I enjoy this very much.
Videos where I am present. But I think you have definitely have more videos where you actually led the session. Fernando, I hope you make more guide videos. I hope I get to see a guide video for a BCG office in Raleigh. You said that's where you'll be.
I mean, I don't know if for BCG. Right. I mean, for
whichever MBB. Yes, that is correct.
See,
so Buñuel gave us another GMAT question, and it's also very exponent based. Selby, are you feeling good about earning your cake by solving this question?
I will take a bite every time I feel like I'm not doing a good job with the question. So I'll finish the cake in the first question itself.
Maria, do you have it in you to solve one more question?
I mean, I have it in me to hang out while the rest of you do, and I might try as well. But I feel I've earned my retirement from these. You guys, come on.
Let's do it.
I'm an essay resume and interview person. Oh Lord. Okay.
Awesome. I wish I had some really awful resumes to have you deconstruct. But all right, let's go.
Oh, we're solving? Okay.
I'm going to start the timer.
Says
This is not tricky. This just seems torturous.
Multiple of 26.
By the way, Buñuel, he's saying, "Oh, it's not as hard as it seems to be."
Okay.
I think I have an answer, but Selby, I'm sure you have an answer, right?
No, so I'm gonna take a bite from the cake.
Did you just give up? Was that like your give up face?
Yep. No, I was just genuinely so hungry. I've been
Fernando, do
eyeing
you have
on
an
this cake.
answer?
Just like 30 more seconds. I might or might not.
All right. Let's go. All right, we are 2.5 minutes in. Selby, I'll just remind you the spoon is still in your mouth. But
Okay.
what's your answer, Selby?
I don't know. I don't know.
No, but you have to you can't not answer. You have to guess and move on, right?
Okay, I'll guess. I think it's C.
It's C. Okay. I think it's C too, but I think I have like a real reason for it. Maria,
Tiramisu
what's
is
your
working.
guess?
Not even close, because I feel like there's got to be some sort of a trick to it that I'm not.
But like, what's your guess? You have to guess and
I
move on.
I don't even have a guess.
But you on the, if because Maria, you have your GMAT coming up, and in that GMAT, you can't
No, I
skip a
don't.
question.
No, I don't. Unless we build a time machine going back 21 years.
Fernando, what's your guess here?
I think Selby is a very smart person, so I will say C.
Oh,
I
that's
think
so
C
sweet.
C was my answer too. I do think this is a lot trickier. This looks a lot trickier than it is. So this is how I approach this. All of these are odd numbers. 26 is an even number. So you're multiplying a bunch of odd numbers, which is a multiple of an even number raised to an exponent. So that exponent has to be 0 because only an even number raised to 0 gives you 1, which is an odd number. And it also says n is non-negative, so n can still be 0. So if n is 0, now we have like 0 raised to, sorry,
Right.
if
0
raised
minus
to 26.
26 to n, which is 1.
And
So 0 minus 1.
yes. So anything raised to the power of 0 is always going to be 1. So this is 1, this is 0, so you have minus 1. This was tricky. I do have feedback for this question. I don't think we need this thing. I think this is a part of GMAT Club Tests. I don't think we need this thing. I just think we need to say this whole thing is a multiple of 26 to the power of n. And that's it, where n is a non-negative integer. Selby is copying from the chat box. That's the accusation.
No, I'm not. No, actually, what the way I was solving it, I think I missed the last step. Like I did not calculate it correctly, but I came to the right answer.
Right.
So
That's what
I mean,
matters.
I can explain.
Exactly.
I can explain
Exactly.
it, guys.
All right, we have guests. Scott, how are you doing? It's
I'm
been a while
great.
since I was in a live stream with you, but I know Selby has done a bunch of stuff.
I'm great. Good to see you. Good to see everybody. Thanks so much for having me here.
Scott, we are celebrating 100,000 subscribers. It was a bit anticlimactic. I thought we would reach that number in this live stream, but we reached that number this morning. So Selby's eating a cake. I will order a cake later. But Scott, for those who don't know you, introduce yourself to us. Who are you?
Sure. Yeah. Well, congratulations on the viewers. It's super, super exciting. So for those who don't know me, I'm Scott Edinburgh, the founder of Personal MBA Coach. I went to MIT for undergrad, Wharton for my MBA. I've been running this company for the last 16 years. So we do tutoring, GMAT, GRE, executive assessment tutoring, admissions consulting, and top ranked on Poets and Quants, and do a lot of different things in this space. So that's kind of who I am, and happy to be here today to celebrate life.
Awesome. Scott, before you joined, we had a lot of chats about the new test, what that means for admission, what that means for recruiting. I'm curious if you are seeing more questions from either your clients or your prospectives about new GMAT tests or GRE and confusion around which tests to take.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of confusion. The most popular question is, will it matter if I take the old test or the new test, right? And people are wondering, do I wait for the focus? Do I not wait for the focus? Well, the name focus is a short-term thing anyway, right? So focus is going away. It will just be the GMAT anyway. And what I say is I wouldn't really overthink it too much. Everything is done on a percentile basis. And if it's easier or it's shorter, it feels like you're going to be doing better, then other people are probably going to be doing better as well. And then it won't really matter too much. So obviously there are differences among the tests, but at the end of the day, take it when it's right for you. If you do have an older GMAT and you crush it, you do really well, maybe there's a slight advantage, but hard to tell at this point.
Right. So Scott, I don't know if you have met Fernando before, but Fernando is a second year at Darden, has done a bunch of YouTube videos for us. Maria and you obviously know each other.
Sure. Hey,
hey, Scott, nice to see you again.
Good to see you.
One of the things that we are trying to do for this live stream is make sure every single person on this live stream at least solves one GMAT questions. Maria is like on her 5th GMAT question now.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But I haven't actually done them. Like, I'm just sort of trying to reason through them.
I mean,
like
you have done a few.
The way as a mom does, like when I tell my kid, I literally was scanning his geometry homework in earlier. Like, I'm just like, well, how would you set it up? And then my brain doesn't have to actually solve things anymore. So
that's funny. I literally haven't looked at we do tutoring. I think we have some of the best tutors out there, but myself, I actually haven't looked at a GMAT question since I applied to school. So you're talking, I don't know, 17 years or something from now. So,
oh, wow.
So this should be interesting.
That is fantastic.
We're on the same boat.
Okay.
We're on the same boat, Scott.
Before that happens, let me drop before I have to embarrass myself again, because right now people might be thinking I'm a smart guy from my intro, but if I have to go over another question again, they will say, that's such like, what a lie.
I hope none of your MBA managers get to see this. But Fernando, thanks so much. I'm sorry, are you seriously going to leave or are you going to stay back?
Yeah, so I have to leave now, but it was like great to see you all and participate, even if just a little bit. Congrats, GMAT Club. I'm very grateful for you guys, for Bogdan, for GMAT Club, for everyone of you, for all the help, for all the support. And you guys know you can always count on me. Don't cry, please. Don't make it emotional. If anyone needs it as well, you all have my name here. It's the same name for LinkedIn. So more than happy to help with whatever anyone needs. And let me see if I remember. Soup do par. Is it right, Selby? soup do par. No, good afternoon. Oh no, that's not right.
So I think it's a literal translation, but
Yeah.
nobody would say that.
Maybe you guys just don't know how to speak Hindi. Never mind.
That might be the.
In Portuguese, it would be boa tarde.
See, Maria, I mean, let's
So,
just...
Fernando, you and I should just speak in Portuguese, and then that way
Exactly,
Selby
I
and
think.
Shovik will be the ones left
Perfect.
out.
I think so. That happens a lot over here. People just start speaking Hindi when I'm around, and I'm like, okay, so I'm going to speak Portuguese. And
No
Muito
fala
bem, muito
português.
bem.
Muito obrigado. Thank you so much, everyone. Oh, we're going to just post here on this Sunday, we're going to have one debrief session with a Chicago booth at Meet. So everyone more than welcome to join and make it to 200K right now, followers. And that's it. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks, Fernando.
Yeah.
Selby, correct me if I'm wrong. We have 1 more hour for the stream.
Correct.
Should we talk about the giveaways again? Just because people might be rotating.
Oh, yeah. So we are doing a different way of, doing the whole giveaway process. So this time we have posted an image on our YouTube community. Please, guys, check that out. All of the details are mentioned for the giveaway there. But other than that, of course, we are going to be giving our GMAT Club tests for 100 hours, starting from right now, from when this live session started. So go ahead, utilize our tests, and yeah, well, I think I'll announce the giveaway winners in 3 days. So stay tuned on our Instagram stories for that.
All right.
Yep.
Scott, are you ready for your first GMAT question?
I'm ready. And I've heard a lot about the virtual GMAT and the technical glitches. So if there's a glitch on my end and the video goes out, we'll just blame GMAT.
I'm sure that will be the reason. So this is an experimental question. I think we just built it for GMAT Club Tests. So I know Buñuel's on the chat. Let us know if we shouldn't do this question. But I just saw it, and I'm gonna try to do it. Let's go. Let's start the timer. Not co-prime to each other. What does co-prime even mean?
Exactly.
I don't love this.
Let me Google it.
See, I would have had one of our tutors.
Co-prime means when
they explained all this.
when two numbers have no common factors other than 1, that's co-prime.
So they're not co-prime to each other. So they do have common factors.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not, none of them are a multiple of the other. Okay.
The minimum value of the least common multiple.
It sounds like a riddle.
These 3 numbers, it does.
So 1 is clearly not that number, right? Because if there is 1 and something else, then that would be a multiple of 1.
None of the numbers is a multiple of the other. Minimum value of the least common multiple.
Right.
I think would that mean like all 3 of them are prime numbers? If they're not,
least common multiple of these 3 numbers. Okay, so if you have I'm feeling like we're either at C or E, but
C or E, are you thinking like, so I was thinking those numbers could be 2, 3, and 5. So if it's true 2, 3, and 5, the least common multiple is 30. But 2, 3, and 5, they are co-prime to each other, but they are asking.
Yeah, that's the part that the co-prime.
Co-prime to each other.
I'm going with D here.
You're going with D. That is 30. Selby, what is your answer?
Yeah.
Are 3, 4, and 5?
Give me time to think.
Would
3, 4, and 5?
Would those be co-prime? I'm like, it's like a double negative. It's like they're not co-prime. So co-prime, I'm like, no.
Not co-prime to each other.
Wait, so not co-prime means they would have common factors, right?
Maybe.
Right. So they have to have a common factor, but not be multiples of each other.
I don't know that we're allowed to phone a friend like this on the real test. This feels
I think
like
we are.
All right, I'm gonna take Scott's guess that is D and move on. Oh, this is a part of a test. Oh, Buñuel did say this question is too hard. All right, Buñuel, can you please give us a question really quick that is not this hard, is problem solving, and that has an answer? Could you please?
So we won't know the answer? Okay.
Yes, we will not know the answer, but I'm sure we will know because Buñuel will tell us. But I will try to find us a question that is slightly easier and that has an answer. Scott, we did a bunch of MBA walkthroughs recently, so I'm curious about this, and I will ask Maria this as well. A lot of the questions that I see now on the forum, because round 1 is almost about to end. I think there's just a few schools left that are round 2. Should I whip up an application in the next 2 weeks for a school with an early October or a mid-October round 1 deadline? Or should I get a better GMAT score, write a better resume, write better essays, and wait for round 2?
Yeah. So if you are competitive, right, and that obviously is different for everybody, but if you feel like your numbers are good enough right now, I would try to get in some round one schools. It is definitely a school by school sort of specific situation, but it depends if you've done any work before, if you've done some essays, if you're a quick writer, a quick editor, in the matter of a few weeks, you can churn out a really good application if you know what you're doing, and then you get some in for round 1. The benefit of there is you kind of get some experience and you can do some interview prep while you're prepping for the second round. But if you're on the fence, let's say, overrepresented and your test score is just average, probably wait for the second round, because second round will be fine. And it won't be that, especially for the schools that are due in October, because obviously I know which ones those are. There's not a huge difference between round 1 and round 2. So if you're going to be able to get to that, competitive score for your group by round 2, I would wait for that. And we've pushed a lot of people to round 2 this year because of that.
Gotcha. We have a new guest who also, I'm sure, has opinions about this. Donna, how are you doing?
Good. I'm happy to see lots of friendly faces out there. Happy Friday, everyone. I think we're all, I'm just like, oof, I finally feel like I can breathe after a intense, all these messages I'm getting, urgent. It's like, okay, can't take it anymore. But anyway, I would say that, if you have the time right now and you can get something in October, why not? Because, do it as early as you can do it, but do it well. But if you're scrambling and you're not going to do a good job, then I think, January's fine. I think all of the, I like to call them the blue light specials of Darden has their, hurry and get your, interview guaranteed or whatever. I think all of the special and aisle 5 kind of stuff is over. So you can wait until January unless,
So Donna, you jumped in the conversation and you kind of touched on something that I was hoping to suss out, right? And I will do a full intro and, ask you who you are in just a bit.
Sure.
This is such a cool part of the conversation. I think the specials is what I was referring to. So I think since COVID, it's not I think 2020 was a really big year for business schools where everybody was trying to get into business schools. Application has cooled a lot since then, right? Where I know for a fact that last year record low applications. So to me, the sense that I get when application volumes are low, it's easier to get in. I don't know. Anecdotally, feels that way, right? This year has been a little bit surprising where, again, it's too early to make any calls, but just looking at GMAT Club, looking at the forum and general engagement, I see an uptick. I see a non-discernible, and I see an uptick in everything. We see an uptick in the GMAT content. We see an uptick in application content, and even some of our website metrics, right? that kind of signals that, oh, maybe there are more applicants this year than last year. So schools wouldn't necessarily know that till they finish round one. So to me, it feels like get in while schools are still trying to figure that out, because their volume in round one will kind of dictate their volume in round two. So that's why I'm curious if rushing through an application in round one, I mean, sure, like quality bars, like keeping consistent, is there like a tangible benefit to squeezing an application in?
I mean, I think if you, like I said, if you can do it well,
Yeah.
it's kind of like, why not do today what you can do today, just because that frees you up to perhaps, if you need to apply to another school in round two. But there's really that January deadline is you're going to get full consideration in that January deadline.
Right.
Lots of people are going to be in there.
Yeah, but procrastination is also so wonderful. Maria, any advice to close this conversation? What would you tell someone asking you?
I mean, I think for me, one of the biggest wild cards would be your recommender, because you can force yourself to pull an all-nighter or multiple all-nighters, especially if you're young.
Yeah.
But you can't necessarily get your recommender to pull an all-nighter. So I agree with Scott and Donna. Like if you can get something together, and some people can, like some people really are like just naturally good communicators. They figure out what a school is looking for. They can write it pretty quickly. But if that recommender is on vacation, or you haven't really approached them yet, and you approach them out of the blue, and you're like, okay, surprise, you need to write like 300 words about how I'm excellent compared to others, and you need to write 250 words about a time you gave me feedback and I respond. Like that might be a little bit tricky. I think the other thing to think about is if you apply, let's say you throw in an application to an earlier school, because at this point, I mean, we've got, I think, MIT coming up, but then aside from that, some of the other programs coming up with the later deadlines might be a bit quote unquote easier to get into. But the only consideration I would throw out, just for the sake of thinking, is if you get into a school round one, they might ask for that deposit deadline, like say in February. And so then if you apply to the schools that you really want to go to in round two, you might be in a position where you might have to like pay a deposit to a school that you got into. But then it's like, well, do I take the bird in the hand and pay the deposit, or do I hold out for the dream school? So I've worked with people who have done that sometimes, where they're like, I applied to the easier schools in round one, thinking I would just get it out of the way, but not taking the logistics of the deposits. And just because at Applicant Lab, like I tend to, finances tend to be more of a top of mind concern sometimes, I think, for my folks. So I get these sort of panicked emails of like, they're asking me for $2,000. What do I do? And I'm like, well, that's a year's salary for me. And I'm like, whoa, because if you can turn it down, but then you risk ending up with nothing. So that is something that I do find myself advising people to also think about. You might get in, but then you just don't apply anywhere that you wouldn't be happy to go.
Right.
Maybe that's the way to put it.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Recommender is a pretty significant time commitment, especially if they're also writing a bunch of other schools. I wouldn't burn that bridge by asking someone to write a recommendation in like a 24-hour deadline.
However, it's the same recommendation though.
The beauty is if it's a school on the Common App, then it's really not any different. But if it's, well, Wharton's not in consideration right now, but if it was a school like Wharton where it was a completely different question,
right,
then it would be asking a lot.
Yeah.
But if you've already asked people and they've done some, then you could just, throw in one more.
Just whip it out. Yep.
Donna, you have been on many of these live streams, so I'll be surprised if anybody doesn't know you. But still, there are new people here all the time, and this video will live on YouTube forever. Who are you? What do you do?
Yes. So somehow, and despite me being a person who coaches people to plan out their life journey and, sort of have all these goals, somehow I have ended up, I don't know that it was ever my an overt plan, but I have spent the better part of my professional life coaching young people through that sort of early career journey, whether that was working at UNC Keenan-Flagler in the undergraduate business program, whether it was working in MBA admissions at UNC, or working now coaching people directly with Stratus admissions. I have really seen and just actually love I love watching people kind of, that opportunity for someone to maybe jump a rung on the socioeconomic ladder, the emails, the flowers, the different things that people have shared with me about how their life has changed. It's really rewarding work. And like, I think of that, that a famous speech at Stanford that Apple founder gave about how to connect the dots in your journey, and like just do the things that interest you, and then they somehow make sense. And after college, I worked at Morgan Stanley for a couple of years. That was not really the thing that I loved doing, but it was an interesting experience. But I worked in advertising after that, and I loved being part of the creative process and helping to sell brands and do marketing. And then here I get this, admissions knowledge, and after my MBA at Kellogg, and now I'm putting it together. So it all seems to feel like I gathered the pieces of the puzzle that actually give me a background that's very useful helping people through this MBA admissions journey. But I can't say that it was something that if you'd asked me 20 years ago would have happened, but so here I am. And I've really enjoyed being a part of GMAT Club and being on panels and, answering questions in the chats and all kinds of things. So.
And we were all hanging out together a couple months ago at the AGAC conference, because we
are
are all three of us are members of the elite admissions consulting organization called AGAC.
Well, I think the group of people that we really are trying to do it in a way that is in partnership, advancing the industry and doing best practices, and really trying to be partners with the schools and help people find their best fit school and end up where they will thrive. And really coaching people as opposed, we're doing things the right. So we're the kind of people you should, if you're out there, look for people with the AGAC seal of approval.
For AGAC,
out there.
I'm an AGAC consultant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Awesome. GMAT Club, I think we have done some work with AGAC, a lot of AGAC partners tend to be our partners as well. But can you help me understand, Scott, why you should look for an AGAC consultant, but not someone who may not be an AGAC consultant? As a consumer, what is the benefit that I'm
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question, right? And many people watching this might say, what are they talking about?
AGAC?
What is this? Right? So, AGAC, Association of International Graduate Admissions Consultants, and I'm on the board of directors and have been involved for a long time, so quite familiar with the organization. Well, there are a lot of things that AGAC members get to do, and for one thing, we have to apply to be a member. So you have to be good and pass certain rules and restrictions and be ethical and strong. And so that it's one way to know that you're getting a good consultant if they're a member. Plenty of people aren't members, and kind of leave it at that. The other thing is there's a lot that the consultants get access to within the admissions community. So just chats with admissions directors, events, conferences. So if you're working with a consultant that's not part of AGAC, they're not having these conversations. They're not really getting that same level of access to admissions directors. And so those are the two, you give a list of 7 things. I mean, you won't remember any of them, right? So those are the 2 things that I think are most important to consider.
Yeah. And I guess I'd add, we are bound, there's all kinds of people. Admissions consulting means many things to some people. And unfortunately, there's some unscrupulous people out there that, perhaps are trying to take the driver's seat and, actually do more than they should. And AGAC consultants are saying, no, we are there to coach, really help someone bring out their story as opposed to stepping over any boundaries. So, and ultimately you're going to do better when you tell your story from, yourself. And so I think it's really important, and also just wouldn't do anything that's unethical, and you wouldn't want to be engaging with someone who's sort of a bad agent. So I think it's kind of a, if you will, Better Business Bureau seal of approval that these people have been vetted and know what they're doing and are professionals. So.
Well, with that, I'm going to wish everybody the best of luck. I know we have time slots, so sort of respecting of that. So good to see everybody, and hope to be on some of these soon.
You lucked out. You don't have to answer the question now. The GMAT, the practice question.
You know, I answered the question. We just don't know what the right answer was. So I'll
That's
just
true.
assume D.
That's true. Hey, you know what? You got it right.
I will assume D until someone tells me otherwise.
Thanks
Thank you,
so
everyone.
much.
Congrats, GMAT.
Right.
Club.
All right, Donna, are you ready for a GMAT question?
Oh Lord, no, I'm not. But
All right. This is the data sufficiency question.
okay.
Yep.
Selby, do you mind explaining what data sufficiency is? If just in case Donna Maria don't remember.
Yeah. So in data sufficiency, you get only two options, and you have to figure out if those two options are enough to sort of give the answer for the question. Now, data sufficiency has options like option A would be that the first statement is sufficient. Option B would be that the second is sufficient. Option C, I think, is when both together are sufficient, right, Shovik? Am I right?
Yes. So A, B, C, D, E. A, 1 is sufficient, 2 is not. B, 2 is sufficient, 1 is not. C, both of them together are sufficient. D, either of them are sufficient. E, both of them together not sufficient. Does that make sense?
Or maybe I can bring up another question.
No, I think this is fine. Let's do that. So I'm just gonna read it out loud. Sylvie, do you mind starting the timer?
Oh, okay.
What is the product of 6 consecutive integers?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, 6 consecutive. Okay, I'm gonna do it in my head and be Selby, let us know when to stop and have to force us to guess.
Okay. Just to know what the options are, I'm gonna put them in the chat about Maria Donna so that you can see. And option E is neither alone nor together is.
All right, Donna, what's your answer?
Well, I'm going to tell you that this is good because I feel like I have more empathy for what my poor clients are dealing with. Honestly, I've not had to answer a data sufficiency question in a long time. I feel like E because I'm just not sure I know enough to say it, but that's I could.
E. So you think that both of them together are still not sufficient, right? To come to a unique solution.
And that may mostly be because I think my brain is fried thinking about this question, but I just can't. I'm not quite sure. I'm.
All right. I think it's C. That would be my guess. But Selby, what is?
C means you need them together.
Yeah, you need them together to get a unique answer to the question stem.
But isn't each one separately? If the sequence contains both positive and negative integers and they're consecutive, that means one of those integers has to be 0.
Correct. I was gonna say the same.
So you're gonna get 0.
That is
so that by itself should be enough.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, that is correct. Maria, look at you. I mean, well, I think it has to be B then, right? Like
no, because the largest integer in the sequence is 4. If they're consecutive integers, then it would be.
Oh, so you need both. Yes.
I think either one independently.
Yeah.
Oh,
which one's the one where either one works?
But why do you need either one if it contains if it's just 2, if it contains both positive and negative, and they are consecutive, so that means 0 is there, so the product will be 0.
So that by itself is enough to know that the product is 0. And then the first one, I think, is enough to know that the product is also going to be 0 because it's 6 consecutive integers, so it'll be.
Right.
Oh, okay.
So each of them will be sufficient?
Wait, I'm going backwards. Yeah. I'm trying to get like 3, 2, 1, 0, -1. Yeah. Right. So the 6 integers are -1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So the 0 is the second.
Yes. Selby, what was your guess? Now I'm pretty interested.
No. Now I knew that it's D. I kind of got confused that which option it is. Like if D can be both individual. But yeah, like first, I completely agree to what Maria just explained.
Maria, that was super quick.
That's because I'm on my second cup of coffee, and some of my my stuff's kicked in. So,
somebody's saying, Selby, you need more practice. Well, so do I. I kind of missed this one.
Should I bring up one more?
Yeah, let's do it.
Oh God, I need to get out of this quick. I need to get out of here quick.
Then we'll stop the stream.
Okay, so we are gonna do this time a sentence correction. So this is not a quant, and you guys can see, like I was solving questions back in 2021, right? Like this was last taken in August, so literally 2 years ago. I'm rusty.
Maybe you have a separate account.
No, this is my account.
All right.
Okay.
Cool. Do you want to start the timer?
Yeah. My God, this is so confusing.
I should not have attributed the coffee earlier to my.
But it's only for physicians, Maria. I don't think it aligns with other professions.
Yeah. This is a weird. I have no. I have no rationale to give for this, but D feels like the right answer in this. But
yeah. I go with D as well. Why
not B?
Why not B?
Like,
I was looking at like more versus greater.
Yeah.
Likelihood to me is like a single number or a percentage or whatever, like a probability, right? So I think this is talking about that the number being higher, so like a greater likelihood, more likelihood. I think you assume more when something is increasing in quantity, not amount. So like I have more friends because I can count them, friend one, friend two, friend three, but I have greater wisdom. Not really, but
But we don't know. Is there an answer that we're saying?
yeah, sorry, Maria, what's your take?
Yeah, I think what was initially like it felt a little bit at first like there would be a parallelism, that the more of this, then the more of that there would be some sort of parallelism there. But I don't think that people say the more they had a likelihood. It feels a little clumsy.
It doesn't feel like a great sentence.
It's not great. Yeah.
Yeah.
The greater it's not E. The greater was coronary disease likely, so we can eliminate that one.
Should I check what the answer?
Yeah, what was it? The more was there.
So you guys said D, so let me check. Oh, it is D.
Yay! Yeah. All right. Well, at least I'm not. That's good. People on their grammar, not on their math.
Exactly. That's the value add.
So yeah, I need.
Donna, do you want to go for one more question?
I don't know. I don't know if I can take it. I also want to be mindful. I think I was supposed to be on here for like 15 minutes. I've a little overstayed my welcome.
No problem. One more question.
All right. Well,
Donna, we are reaching the end of our live stream.
Oh, okay. I will say this, and I do have so much empathy for all of you out there who are doing your full-time job, trying to think about what you're going to do next, subjecting yourself to these mental gymnastics, and I think you have to be very kind to yourself.
Did we enter a multiverse? Donna, for a second there, you're. Oh. Now I'm in the multiverse.
I don't know what happened.
Something happened.
Maybe that's the sign I'm supposed to.
I was gonna bring up a really.
I don't know. Not good. I could leave and come back. Something bad has happened.
Well, okay. This is supposedly an 800 plus super hard. So try timer.
This is just me mic test.
This is just me mic test.
Oh,
What happened? You're still on mute.
okay, this is very poorly written. By the way, I was Sylvie, can you mute yourself?
Should I mute myself?
Yeah, I was trying to like play a game of muting everybody to see if this was like an us problem or a streaming solution problem. I think we have isolated it to you. I think it's the cake. I think
What was in that cake?
What was in that cake?
Selby, I don't think. Sorry, Selby, can you stay muted for a second? Maria, can you say anything while Selby stay muted?
Yeah, I was wondering what was in that cake that led to this impact on our.
Yeah, I think it's something to do with your system, Selby. There's something. I would just recommend like just opening a new Chrome, like closing out Chrome and coming back, and I think we'll fix it.
Let me see. How about if I talk now? It's fine, right?
It's all good. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So while I was doing this test, I actually could not answer this question. But Donna, what do you think is the answer?
Well, I feel like I don't like any of them, but I feel like if I'm gonna be logical like Maria here and like let's get rid of some of the things that if only on the basis of duplication facilities should be avoided. That feels like that's not it. I think solely in that duplicated facility should be avoided also doesn't feel right. So it's basically this, we're saying something and then that with the comma, it's like there's a reference to this. So it's got to be referring to that first statement. So on the basis of avoidance of duplicated facilities alone or on the grounds, what do we think between A and B? Is that where are you all sort of narrowing in terms of your top two contenders?
You know, I really don't know about this one.
It's Selby saying she's circling in on B.
Yeah. Selby, do you mind just leaving and coming back to the stream? I think it'll fix itself. All problems in life fixes itself if you just, turn it off and back.
Turn it off and then come back.
Just restart.
Yeah.
But
is that what you've learned in the tech industry, Shovik?
Is that what you've learned?
Oh, but yes, that is correct. I learned from Bill Gates. So,
it's funny. I'm like, what is the difference? What's the, on the basis of avoidance? There's a difference here on the basis of avoidance and on the grounds of avoiding. So that's.
Yeah, I would. So my top two was B and C. Oh no, Selby.
Now she took the question with her when she signed off.
We are ending the stream definitely on a very high note. So
how did she?
I am pretty sure all the problems are solved.
Yes.
Wait, is the issue still there?
No,
we fixed it.
Look at that. You have problem solved. That's
Did
you need to reshare your screen though.
No, I'm still not connected, but I'll share my screen.
Yeah. So again, turning off, back on always works.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Well,
so
I think C, my argument against C is that it says solely in that duplicated facility should be avoided, but there might be other reasons why you shouldn't. So I feel it's too constrictive for C.
Yeah.
And then D, I think, actually changes the meaning. Building large new hospitals in the bi-state area would constitute wasteful, while the duplication of facilities should be avoided. I feel like that changes the meaning of the sentence.
Yes, I agree with that.
And E is also the same problem as C, like, if only and solely.
Only
so I
because-
was, A and B.
No, but
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, if only doesn't mean only because. Like if that word if were missing, then it would have the same problem as C. Wasteful use of resources only because the duplication of facilities.
Right,
but
right.
if only actually means like if for no other reason. Like there are many reasons, but this is just one of what is potentially many reasons.
Well, in that case, that actually doesn't necessarily strip it out, does it?
I actually did not strip out.
I mean, I wouldn't pick E. I think E is odd to me because, like, if only because the duplication of facilities should be avoided.
It's clunky. It's not great.
It is clunky, but it clunky can still.
But like, when I use a phrase like "if only," I almost always use it in a way that if only I could do this. Like it's almost always like a hypothetical. So if it said if only the duplication of facilities should be avoided, it would at least make grammatical sense. Like I can't wrap my head around E. So back to your original thing, Donna, like on the basis of avoidance versus on the basis of avoiding.
Right.
I kind of feel the GMAT prefers on the
grounds of avoiding.
Yeah, I've seen that to be like more active and contrary. So I would guess with B. Selby, what's your guess?
Same, like I would go for B as well.
But what's your reason?
No reason, just feeling. But should we check what the answer is?
But Maria, what's your final locked-in answer?
I don't know, man. I really like E. Between A and B, I think B is the stronger one. But
wait, so if it's E, Maria, then I'm gonna give you a GMAT voucher for you.
Oh, thank God. Can I save it for 15 years so my kid can use it when he's in?
Building new large hospitals in the bi-state area would constitute a wasteful use of resources, if only because the duplication of facilities should be avoided.
Now that I hear you saying it out loud, now I'm.
I don't know. If I was choosing, I'd be between B and E here. Let's just building new large hospitals in the bi-state area would constitute a wasteful use of resources, if only because the duplication of facilities should be avoided. And that's just saying, if only, as in, if just one reason, right, is because the duplication of facilities should be avoided. That actually makes some sense.
Yeah.
And if we did the other one that we're kind of thinking about, it's building new large hospitals in the bi-state area would constitute a wasteful use of resources, on the grounds of avoiding duplicated facilities alone.
Yeah, right. I think B. I was between B and E.
Maybe it's E because like there's a lot of people on the chat who are saying. I just looked at the chat.
Yeah.
Selby, what is the stat for this? This is a hard question, right?
Yes. Meanwhile, what are you supposed to spend like a minute on every question? So we've already like blown the whole thing. We just did this.
We've been having a charming discussion though as part of it. That's very different.
Well, it's good to
There you go, Maria. Your GMAT voucher is coming to you. So that I would pay to watch you take the GMAT, Maria.
Yeah. I don't like this. I feel this is an unfair question though, because to your point earlier, Shovik, where you said, when I use if only I were 7 feet tall, I would play center for, I would be the next Michael Jordan. But that's a different usage of if only because, if for no other reason, like if only because blank is, you can replace that with if for no other reason than X. So like if only as a figure of speech, I think has different meanings depending on how you use it. So I personally, I don't like this as a native English speaker because I feel like it penalizes. it penalizes people who, you know what I'm saying? Like I only know that because intuitively,
Right.
I don't know. And that doesn't feel fair to me. So that's why I don't like questions that are.
No, that's fine. I will take every unfair advantage that I get if it means I I have a better chance of getting a higher GMAT. But Maria, I think it needs to happen. I think you need to take the test.
I never in my life again will take the test. Although my kid is studying for an admissions test of his own, so
Gotcha.
for high school.
Oh, for high school. Oh, for that, yeah.
It's terrible.
All right.
It's terrible, I tell you.
Well,
Selby, I think we are nearing the end of the live stream.
Yeah.
Should we do a one more plug for the giveaway, just so that people know, and just so that people know they have
Plug away. Just don't give us any more questions.
yeah.
Well, yes, guys, there is a giveaway, and the only way you can participate is by going to our YouTube community page, where I have posted an image, and I'll post it again after this live session with all of the details on how to participate in the giveaway. So go to our YouTube community, check it out there, and follow all the steps. And the winners will be announced in 3 days. Meanwhile, we are giving our GMAT Club tests for 100 hours, starting from the first hour of this live session.
Awesome.
So yeah, there you go.
Thanks, Maria. Thanks, Donna, for staying by with us. I hope
Lovely
200K doesn't take as long as it took us to go to 100K. But Donna, Maria, I hope to see you both in more live streams.
Yes. Great. Good luck to everybody who's working on bettering themselves, and best wishes to everybody in their journeys. So it's great to see you all, and
thanks everyone.
Weekend.
Don't eat the whole cake, Selby. Give us some. Leave some for us too. Bye.
Yeah, Donna, you missed it. Selby had a cake that said
okay.
happy 100. Yeah.
Oh yes. So
Bye.
all right.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.